Mr. Anthony Cobb from Carver High School is going to come to the stage and talk to us about accepting the unspoken gratitude of a challenging student.
Good evening. Well, obviously, thank all of you all for coming out and for everything that you do in our lives. We thank you. Now just take a moment and I want you to feel that gratitude. Thank you. My name is Anthony Cobb. I teach professional communication at Carver High School for Applied Sciences, Architecture, Engineering, Visual Arts, and Performing Arts. That's not a list, that is our entire name. Please look us up because we're doing some amazing things on an amazing campus with some amazing people. I have some really good days. I also coach the speech and debate team. I have had some great successes. I've also had some struggles. But the struggles don't beat me down because I believe that we are a reflection. We are the face of our families, our friends, our colleagues, and our struggles. People are watching how we move in those circles. And how we move in those circles inspire people. I have a magic phrase for those times when I'm struggling. I always tell people, I don't have bad days. I have bad moments. But I have a lot of student debt, and I didn't get that student debt majoring in puppetry or letting somebody make me their puppet. So you can ruin my moment. I'll give you that, but you can't have my day. So what do I do to get through those struggling moments? What I do is I have a magic phrase. It's something that my mother taught me when I was a kid. It's something that she continued to tell me all throughout my adolescence and even into my adulthood. It's a simple phrase, and I call it my magic phrase. Have you ever thought about what your magic phrase would be? Very simple. Consider the source. That's it. Consider the source. That would turn out to be the common thread that would sew and keep my life together. I live by that. I live in that, and I live through that. Consider the source. We have to get to the root of why negative things happen. And when we get to the root of why things happen, when we get to the root of systems, processes, even negativity, we have an opportunity to transform negative into positive. And don't we need more of that in this world? More positive? So that simple phrase I've carried with me my entire life, and it has allowed me to not make a fool of myself in certain situations. It has transformed as well as strengthened my interpersonal relationships. And it has given me peace, as well as the ability to spread peace in the world wherever I go. So I thank you for that, Mom. A simple phrase. Now, how do I apply that on the job? Well, I work with a great group of kids, but they don't always have a good day. We can have a bad day, but we can't show up. We have to fake it until we, right? We don't have the opportunity to come in there and say, I had a horrible day. Today, y'all going to write till my fingers get tired. We don't have that opportunity. We have to go in there and just act like everything is just wonderful, and I disappear at 3 o'clock, and I just turn into vapor. I've got no problems. I've got no struggles. And then you have that one kid, when you are coming to work and you're just in the zone and you're in there working and you're teaching and you're being dynamic and effective and it's working, except for this one kid whose only, and I mean his only purpose in life is to bring you down. When this happens, because sometimes children, they're having a bad day and they're going to let you know that they're having a bad day. Okay? They've got some very colorful words. And they call me some of those colorful words. They call my mama some of those colorful words. So no matter what they have called me or called my mama, the human in me wants to black out and get on their level. Actually, they're in high school, so to get on their level. But as a friend of mine says, I like the 5th and the 20th, amen? So I have to, and I'll ask the student, did you eat today? Did you eat today? And there's usually one or two answers, and the most popular answer is, nope. I'm not a math person, but we just solved for X. Because I know that my energy and my actions did not equate, did not deserve what just got hurled at me. So I'm like, okay. The other answer I'll get from the student is, yeah, I ate. Well, what did you eat? a bag of hot Funyuns, and an Arizona iced tea. Again, we solve for X. We now know what is at the root of the problem. So I'll give the kid a pass, and sometimes that pass is attached to a granola bar. And I tell them, go to the water fountain, wash it down. And the kids tell me, well, our water fountain tastes like gravy. Well, you shall never go hungry again because gravy's coming out the pipes. But the kid comes back, and they may not know how to say thank you, but they cannot harness that energy and that love that comes from them that tells you thank you. And the kid comes back to my class and is changed, is appreciative, and is your biggest advocate. Sit down, he's talking. You better get your books out. All because you stopped this child's stomach from touching his back. And he is no longer just thinking about that. He is now engaged. You have to look beyond. You have to consider the source. Go deep in there. Because kids hide a lot of stuff deep in there. And you got to get that out of there. So I'm grateful for my mother who taught me that. Now, school. I love school. I teach school. I loved every year of school. Let me tell you about kindergarten. I loved kindergarten so much that I did it twice. I failed kindergarten, y'all. How? I'm going to answer that in just a little bit. Because I showed up every single day. And if they weren't making some type of an art project, if they weren't cooking, singing, or dancing, I came in there and I just laid on the assistant teacher's lap and I cried and cried and cried. Are they cooking? I did what I wanted to do, but not what I had to do. So they thought something was wrong with me. Now, I was a student. I was that student, y'all, with ADHD, a great immune system, and perfect attendance. I showed up come hell or high water, and I literally mean that. There was no excuse for missing school. My parents said there's only one reason you'll miss school, and that's a death in the family, and that death had better be yours. Needless to say, I never died while I was in school, so I showed up every day. I kept showing up, whether you wanted me to or not. I kept coming. So I went home for the summer, didn't think about kindergarten, didn't even think about going to the first grade, but the first day of school, which should have been my first day of first grade, my mother says, hey, Tony, how was the first grade? And I said, Mom, I don't know because I'm still in kindergarten. But I didn't care because they were painting and they were cooking and they were singing and they were dancing. Let's do this again. If looks could kill, I died 3 times right there because my mother was like, what? The next thing I know, I'm laying face up on a tire swing at John Muir Elementary School while my mother and dad raked the administrators and the teachers over the coals. And my mother says, how does my child fail kindergarten? My mother's a woman of faces. And she says, better yet, how does my child fail kindergarten? And I don't know. Come to find out, there was no paper trail. For some reason, they didn't do any formal assessments. It was an informal assessment. They just thought since I showed up and cried when I didn't want to do what I didn't want to do, something wrong. Let's make him do it again. So my mother said, give him some tests and get him in the first grade. The next thing I know, I'm in Miss Pagano's first grade class, and I soared through, like I did all my elementary school classes. I get to 5th grade, and this was a tumultuous year. I met Johnny Mathis. My family just moved to Texas. Culture shock. After knowing me 3 days, Mr. Johnny Mathis pulls open this literature book that had plays in it, and he gave every student a part in that play. And I'll never forget the look on his face. He said, wait, Anthony? After he had given me a bit part, he said, I'm going to change this. I'm going to give you the lead in this play. I think you can do it. After 3 days of knowing me, he knew there was more to me than this child that couldn't stop bouncing off the walls, eating and picking his fingernails. He looked beyond. When everybody else was throwing their hands up, he looked beyond. If I had $1 for every time somebody did this, every time a teacher did that, I'd have $47 and really so low self-esteem. After knowing me for 3 days, this man looked past that. He also gave me a puppy because I didn't know that he actually knew my mother. He gave me a puppy. I named that puppy Poochie, a brown Labrador. That puppy loved me so much. Puppy would take my sister and brother to school, walk them to the highway, come back down, pick me up and walk me to the highway to go to school, and would meet me on that highway. That dog transformed my relationships with my siblings. made me a better person at home, made me a better student. I wanted to do everything Mr. Mathis asked me to do because he looked beyond my quirks. He looked beyond everything that people said was wrong with me and said, you can do it. And I knocked on Mr. Mathis's door 28 days later, and he said, Anthony Cobb, get in here. He yelled at me, but he remembered my name after 28 years. He never forgot me, and he told the same stories that I had been telling for almost 30 years about the puppy and the lead in the play. You could have bought me for a penny, because I always have a good cry queued up, so look out front row. We've got to consider the source. I do what I do because of people like that loved me. Not because they taught me, but because they loved me. Because they gave me a chance and they taught me how to transform a negative situation into a positive situation. And y'all, I teach a group of kids that have a lot of situations, don't always have the tools to transform them. Everybody around them is doing this, giving up on them. At Aldine, we produce the nation's best. And in order to produce the nation's best, you've got to inspire. In order to inspire, you've got to look beyond the surface and consider the source. I thank you all for being here. I have one last thing I would like to show you. Don't get scared. That's called the victory pose. When we talk about considering the source, what's the source of your inspiration? I get kids that don't want to speak, that don't want to compete, and I teach them the victory pose. This, making your body larger than what it actually is, making it take up more space, reduces your cortisol, which causes you to stress and shake. It increases your testosterone. So the next time you go to a job interview, the next time you're on the stage, get in the toilet and do. Thank you. I'm Anthony Cobb. Thank you.
Mr. Anthony Cobb.